The king is on the north! King of the north! The good old NFC North is what's up next. Kyle Gaffner is here. I am Adrian Fedke. The Kings of the North are only going to be decided by either the Green Bay Packers or the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll get right into it. Who wins the division?
Packers.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Before Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, I actually had Minnesota winning the division, going 12-4, and having the 2 seed in the NFC. But, things have changed. And it's interesting because in week 2, Minnesota and Green Bay, they play each other. But my thing is, because Sam Bradford is only going to be in week 2 and not knowing the playbook yet, I don't think Minnesota's going to win that game anymore. So I've got Green Bay winning that game. And instead of Minnesota going 12-4, it's going to be Green Bay going 12-4, and Minnesota is going to go 11-5. So I've got there you go. Those are my 1 and 2s.
I'm right with you there. And right before Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, I had them in the division too. I think it adds another dynamic to that team. But now we got Sam Bradford there. It's a little bit different. He's not as mobile as Teddy is. I mean, they've got a good line out there. I think it's going to be a lot of feeding it to AP in the beginning until he gets over that learning curve and learns that playbook.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll just start with Minnesota since that's what all the Eagles fans are going to want. So, I still think this is going to be a very, very good team. This team is not going like 7-9 just because they don't have Teddy Bridgewater. Even if they had Sean Hill, 16 because of how good this defense is. I mean, you look at down the line. This defensive line. I was arguing with Jeremy the other day. Like, their defensive line is better than the Eagles' defensive line. Like, no doubt in my mind.
Hands down.
Yeah, you got Everson Griffin. You got Linval Joseph. You got Sharif Floyd. That is a fantastic trio. And then you look even further, their linebackers. You got Anthony Barr. This guy's a stud in the making. You look at their secondary. You got Xavier Rhodes, outstanding cornerback, and you got Harrison Smith. So
outstanding safety.
Yeah, this team is just loaded on defense.
I love Eric Kendricks. It's a shame the Eagles couldn't get the right Kendrick. I think Eric Kendricks is way better than his brother. I think he's going to be a star in the making too.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah, I'm with you there. So this team is loaded. I mean, I even like some of their backups. Daniel Hunter is a defensive end that really caught my eye last year, especially in the wild card game. This guy gets after the quarterback. He can bend the edge. And, they got cornerbacks galore. Terrence Newman is now a little bit older, but you got Trey Waynes waiting in the wings. You got Captain Munnerlyn. He's a veteran there. So this team's got depth on defense. They're loaded on defense. And this is how they're going to win games. So, you can joke like, well, what if Sam Bradford gets hurt? What are the Vikings going to be? Well, even if he gets hurt, this team can still win like 10 games.
It goes back to the old school ways of football. Smash mouth defense and just run it up the gut. Run it right at them with a great running back. Doesn't matter. You could have Mark Sanchez behind the helmet. Me and you could be behind the helmet. We could still win 10 games with this team. Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer. They could do little slant routes. They could get creative. And they've got an outstanding coach in Mike Zimmer.
Yeah, he is outstanding. And his defense, it's top 5 in the league. And this is how they're going to win games. Straight up, man. Straight up. So we'll get a little bit into the offense now. So, they have AP. And it's interesting for Sam Bradford's perspective because this is the best team he's ever played on. And I think he's in his 7th season now. He's never made the playoffs. So he said he's thrilled about this opportunity, and he should be.
How can he not be elated about this? He was upset when the Eagles traded all those draft picks to get a quarterback in Carson Wentz. So he wasn't going to be the long time answer there. So I know he wanted to get out of Philadelphia. So this was his chance to show another team what he could bring. Kind of like another audition for him to pick up a big contract. And he could make the playoffs for finally the first time in his career. I mean, he's been a very big disappointment for being the top pick back in 2010.
Yeah, and he's got some, not really great weapons, but they got a guy in the making in Stephon Diggs. They drafted Laquan Treadwell in the first round.
I like him.
Considered by many to be the best wide receiver in the draft, even though I think he was the 4th guy taken. Mm-hmm. So you got Kyle Rudolph. They're not like great weapons, but there's potential with that pair of Diggs and Treadwell.
Because Cordell Patterson's been a huge bust, so you can kind of just sweep him away. But they've got gidgety guys like McKinnon's also there too. Matt Asiasa. They've got a good running back behind AP too. And I think their offensive line is very underrated. They brought in a guy like Alex Boone, who I think is a very, very good guard. Phil Loholt comes back healthy. Matt Khalil's been kind of a disappointment. He had one good year, and then he's been kind of slumping off. But I think he's going to turn it around this year too. So I think they have a very underrated, offensive line to go along with that great defensive line.
And the big name for them in terms of the underrated mark is Joe Berger. This guy filled in for John Sullivan last year beautifully. So this guy's like you can plug him in at guard or center. So if somebody gets hurt, I mean he's one of the better ones in the league, really.
And Clemens stepped up big too for them, the guy they took out of Pittsburgh last year when there was injuries.
Yeah.
So Phil Loholt, he stepped in right tackle very well.
Yeah. And going back to Khalil for a second, I didn't think he was as bad last year as he has been. He had an amazing rookie year, and everyone was excited in Minnesota. And then he just shit the bed and hasn't been the same since. But at least some promise last year.
So he showed improvement because his second year he was completely awful. He couldn't stop a Mack truck from coming through. I mean, guys were just getting through with ease. I don't understand how you went from that, a stellar rookie season, looked like he was going to be that staple there for the next 12 years, and then something just didn't click.
Yeah. All right, so we've gotten the Bitter Birds thought, at least the Eagles guys' thoughts, Jeremy Burton on the trade. What are your thoughts on the trade?
I thought this was magic made by Howie. This is great. For you to be able to get a first-round pick for Sam Bradford, kudos to you, because we tried trading him in the offseason, and we asked for a second-round pick, and nobody even wanted to give it up. So for you to get a first and then a potential fourth, that fourth could turn into something better depending on how bad the Vikings do, on their success. I thought this was a great trade.
Yeah, they stole a first-round pick from them. They really did. They capitalized on desperation. So, but from the Minnesota perspective, what do you think? Because I can somewhat understand why they did it, because this injury looks like it might be very, very severe, where it could even hinder him in the years to come. Adrian Peterson's window is closing. He's on the wrong side of 30, and they have a defense that can win right now. So I can somewhat get it. But at the same time, you probably could have gotten somebody else for cheaper, even though Sam Bradford is, I guess, okay. I mean, he was the best available guy out there.
You think about it, though, it makes sense because they are in that window of possibly going to the Super Bowl. They're definitely a playoff team, no thoughts about it, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But there wasn't anybody out there in free agency. Who are you going to pick up, like a Mark Sanchez or something like that? No. And your draft pick, your first-round draft pick, is going to be in the lower teens or maybe even the lower 20s. So you're not really giving up that much there either, because even if you do, say, take a rookie quarterback, it's going to take time to develop. And your window now with your best player in AP, you want to go try to win now. So I thought it was worth the risk giving up the first-round pick. And it betters us, too, because – we're holding the draft, and Philly's got a first-round pick now, too. So that's awesome for us, too. But for Minnesota, though, too, you still have another year, Sam Bradford. So if Teddy's not ready to come back right away, you could still have him in the mix. He's still a year under that offense. So I think it's a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, the name I suggested was Mike Glennon from Tampa Bay. He would be a good fit for North Turner. Big arm type, and Turner likes to kind of go vertical, and Bradford. I mean, Bradford can actually go vertical. He's got a big arm.
He does.
It's just people don't know it because he's a dink and dunk type of quarterback. But I don't think there's much of a drop off from Sam Bradford to Mike Glennon. I mean, there is, but there's not much.
Cheaper.
Yeah. So, but I'm not going to hate on the Vikings for doing this. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was. I think Mike Glennon could start in this league too. I don't know if they even got into contacts, but they said the talks between them and the Eagles were happening for a couple days. So I wonder why they didn't go out and search for another quarterback. And I think it's still a great decision for either or because he was unhappy there. He does have a bigger arm, and you could stretch the field with Stephon Diggs, but I think they will do a lot of dinking and dunking with the type of receivers they have. LeCron Treadwell is kind of big, but he's not, oversized or massive or anything where he's going to high point the ball. But it'll be interesting to see what they do because it's going to be a lot of running the football and little flat, passing it out in the flats to McKinnon.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I guess we'll get to underrated, overrated right now. I'll let you go first.
You'll let me go first? Okay. For overrated, ooh, man, where could I go? Trey Waynes, I think, is an overrated cornerback. What are your thoughts on him?
He didn't have a good rookie year. There's other cornerbacks that were better last year. I'll say that. I think there's potential still, but he didn't show it last year.
I think Alex Boone is an underrated guard. I'm going to give love to the lineman. I think Phil Loadholt is an underrated guy, too. So I'm going to go with those two. For overrated, man, tough.
There's not much overrated.
There's really not, especially on this.
Greenway, because he's not as good as he used to be.
Yeah, that's that point of us going after the older guys. I guess we could go with that. We'll pick on the older guys. He's kind of on the wrong side of 30, so Chad Greenway isn't as good. I guess you could say he's a little overrated now, but it's tough to pick.
There's not much. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of underrated guys, though.
Brian Robinson's underrated defensive end.
Yeah, I got him ranked somewhat high. I mean, I'll go Joe Berger for underrated. I talked about him already. I mean, you can definitely Sharif Floyd and Linval Joseph just because those guys they might be the best defensive tackle pair in the league, and nobody knows it. And yeah, so and I'll throw Xavier Rhodes in there too because I had Xavier Rhodes ranked in the top 15 in cornerbacks, and I don't know. People don't really realize how good he is either. So
he's awesome. He's a shutdown corner. I love Xavier Rhodes. I think he's one of the best in the business.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. So we're gonna move on to Green Bay now. I gotta ask you right off the jump, why the fuck would they get rid of Josh Sitton?
Josh Sitton. I have no idea. I was just wondering that myself.
This guy is like one of the best pass protecting guards in the NFL. He went I forget what the exact number of games was, but he went 30 or so games. I forget how many it was, but it was 30 games where he didn't allow a sack, and that is just absolutely incredible.
It's not like he's had injuries that have really hampered his career. He's still young. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. Is this Ted Thompson just being arrogant and thinking he can plug anybody in there? That he's that great of a mastermind that he could just plug and play? I don't know. This was very bewildering to me.
They said it's a money-saving move, but that's the Eagles cutting Evan Mathis last year.
Yeah, that made no sense either.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like this move at all because before this, they had the best guards in the league. Him and T.J. Lang, that's a great fucking pair.
Great pair to protect that awesome quarterback they have back there. You want to keep him on the upright.
Jesus Christ. So, yeah, that's interesting. So Aaron Rodgers comes into this season. It's funny because I have him ranked as the top quarterback in the game, and he comes off a lackluster season for his standards. But, he's still very good, obviously.
Lost a huge piece, too, his deep threat and his touchdown machine. Obviously they have Randall Cobb, but the young wide receivers that they drafted didn't really come up big.
Yeah, they drafted a bunch of white guys. They had Jared Abbrederis, you had Miles White. Devontae Adams isn't white, but he hasn't done anything.
He was Devontae Adams was the guy they expected to step up, and he had a very terrible season.
Randall Cobb was a big disappointment, I thought, last year because they gave him a big contract, and this was his time to really be that number one guy, and he kind of came up short last year.
And we always see that when guys get big money. I don't know if that's what does it. That lacks the production when they sign the big contract and get all that money. So it's what else do I have to prove? I've got all this money now. I don't know if that has to do with it, or he's just surely not a number one. The guy is an incredible wide receiver, but I think the loss of Eddie Lacy had something to do with it too, because it took their running game out of the way. I mean, the man was clearly almost 300 pounds last year, so they just said, sit on the bench, you're not playing until you hit that P90X.
Eddie Lacy. He'll definitely be on my overrated list. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not an Eddie Lacy fan at all. So, yeah. Now, moving on to the defensive side of the ball.
They got some young pieces here. I like their defense.
They got some guys, yeah, like Mike Daniels is good up front. Dayton Jones, another guy. Latroy Guyon's a good nose tackle. And Clay Matthews now is moving back to his more natural position at outside linebacker.
Yeah, he's not a middle linebacker. They had to do that because of injuries and their situation with the linebackers. I love their back end more, but it's good to see Clay back to where he belongs. Get after the pass rusher, be a pass rusher, and get after the quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And they found someone in Jake Ryan that's pretty good. Sam Barrington's going to be their other inside linebacker. So they at least have some starters there that are capable. And Clay Matthews can now go after the quarterback. Julius Peppers, for whatever reason, is still one of the better outside linebackers in the game, at least one of the better edge rushers in the game. Even though he's what now? How old is he now? 36, 37?
He's definitely up there. He's in the twilight of his career, and he's still producing. And he made the transition seamlessly from DN to outside linebacker.
Yes, unbelievable what he continues to do. I like their secondary. I think they have some guys that they plucked from the draft. I like Quentin Rollins and Demarius Randall, two guys that they drafted last year. Randall was a safety that made the transition to cornerback. Rollins did as well. Rollins was the guy that played basketball before making the transition in the secondary and playing football. And
For 1 year.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, he's only played like 2 years of football, and he's unreal. He's like really talented.
That's where just sheer athleticism takes over and just amazes you, because he played point guard at the University of Ohio, Miami, and he just went from right to cornerback, and he played incredible. He's got great instincts. He's got great feet, and it just shows on the field. It's just, and they got Demarius Randall in the same draft.
Yeah.
And I love Ha-Ha Clinton Dix. I'm a huge Ha-Ha fan.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the safeties yet. Yeah, that's a good pair, Burnett and Dix for them. Sam Shields is a pretty good cornerback too. Kind of gets overlooked a little bit across the NFL landscape. One of the better deep, I guess, deep corners in the game. Playing the deep ball is what I meant to say.
And they got him undrafted, I believe, too.
I'll have to check it. Really, that's interesting.
I believe because they had him and Tremont Williams, and one of them I know went undrafted.
Okay, all right. I'll have to check that out. Yeah,
that's Ted Thompson for you, though. He knows how to draft. That's why Green Bay's been good for as long as they've been. When's the last time they've been bad? I can't remember.
Whew. Yeah, it's like before Brett Favre.
Yeah, way, way before. I don't even think we were alive when they were bad. So that's how long it's been.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so we kind of touched on the line a little bit, but let's get back to the offensive line because, I just don't get this sitting thing because this was one of the better offensive lines in the game before getting rid of him. And I don't think they're not starting Corey Linsley at center either, which is interesting. So I thought he was pretty good for them.
He had a good year. He did. And where are they going to go here with guard? Are they going to kick Bakhtiari inside? Are they going to take Jason Spriggs, the young tackle they took at Indiana, kick him inside to guard? I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I like Bulaga there at tackle. Bakhtiari kind of had himself a pretty solid year, and Spriggs is the guy that I really like coming out of the draft. Athletic, really athletic kid out of Indiana.
Could play tackle or guard. So I think, and Bakhtiari's kind of like the similar build. Very slim, quick feet. So it will be interesting to see what Mike McCarthy does there. But I think we're going to see a move like that happen. Because it's cheaper, you got him on the rookie deal, and you don't have to pay Josh Sitton, although you got to pay to keep great players. So I think that's one of the worst moves I've seen in later years of football.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to go with, like, Lane Taylor at guard, or maybe they go Corey Linsley at guard, or maybe you kick someone inside from tackle. So That'll be interesting to see. But there's a major talent drop off from Josh Sitton to whoever they're going to plug in at guard.
No, he won't sit on the market very long. He'll get picked up.
Oh, he's already signed. He's already signed. Chicago signed him yesterday.
See, there you go. And he went to a rival too. There it is.
Yeah. So that makes Chicago a lot better. All right, so we'll get to overrated, underrated right now. Let's see. There's some overrated guys. Randall Cobb's overrated. I was very disappointed in his season last year. Kind of just like a gadget player, and he's a slot player, and he's not a number one guy. So we got a bunch of money. Eddie Lacy, we shall see, because he trimmed up during the offseason, but I've never liked him. And yeah, so I'll let you go, and then I'll do some underrated guys.
Well, Lacy was my guy. Another overrated guy I'd have to say is Balaga is overrated to me because he can't stay healthy. So even when he was in there, he was getting eaten alive. This guy was a top pick. You expect a lot more out of him. I didn't really see it. I thought he was very stiff. He gets bull rushed very easily too. So I'm not impressed by a Balaga. I'm not a Balaga fan.
Okay. All right. Underrated. I like Jake Ryan. He's like your prototypical kind of inside linebacker, kind of that old school mentality, like the downhill thumper type.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. Now, Mike Daniels is a stud along that D-line. People don't really know how good he is. And we talked about Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins. I think these guys can take a big leap forward this season.
Micah Hyde's not too bad either. He's okay. He's decent. I mean, he's decent, but I was going to touch on LaTroy Guion's not too bad either.
Yeah, the nose tackle. Yeah, he's pretty good. And they drafted Kenny Clark, who I kind of like too.
I can't wait to see Kenny Clark. He was one of my favorite nose tackles coming out from UCLA. So I think he's going to be a perfect fit out there in that 3-4.
All right, moving on. Chicago and Detroit.
Woo, man, these two monsters of the Midway. Man,
I don't really want to talk about these teams, but we will. I got both of them going 5-11, so they both stink.
Remember when Chicago was good?
Yeah. Remember when they had a defense?
Yeah. Remember what happened there? No offense and a great defense, and now they have nothing.
Oh, man, Mark Trestman came in there and got rid of the defensive philosophy, and now they're like, they're trying to rebuild it. They did. I'll say this: they did sign some guys during this offseason that I think are pretty good players. Danny Trevathan.
Mm-hmm.
As a linebacker, and Jarrell Freeman. Jarrell Freeman is, I'll say it right now, he's the most underrated player.
Yeah, absolutely. He came from Canadian football, or I think it was Canadian football, and completely tore it up. Very underrated linebacker. He's very quick. He can cover. He gets the ball carrier very quickly. He can do coverage, and he can stop the run too. He's awesome.
Yeah, they got a bunch of guys that can stop the run. Pernell McPhee is another one that plays the edge real well, sets the edge in the running game. You may not get your sack totals as an outside linebacker in that 3-4 that they play, but he's pretty good. I really like Leonard Floyd, the kid they drafted out of Georgia. So
Eddie Goldman.
Oh, Eddie Goldman's a stud. The nose tackle. They had a really good rookie season. They signed Akeem Hicks, who's pretty solid. So they've got some pieces there, but I still don't think they're on the top half of the defenses or anything.
They're on the right track because their past two drafts have been very solid, so they're on the way up. Their offensive line, they're starting to build too. They got Kyle Long there, I think, is an underrated guy. The center they just lost, I can't pronounce his name, but he came from Oregon. It's Husan
Gronis Grasu.
Yeah, that's it. Gronis Grasu. A very, very solid center that they lost, so picking up Sitton was huge. But you need Jay Cutler as your quarterback, and yikes. Enough said.
Adam Gase was able to get him to play some good ball last year. He had the best, I believe, his best statistical season. But, I'm not a Cutler guy at all. I've never been a Cutler guy. His decision-making is very poor. His accuracy can get erratic. Fuck Cutler, man. I'm not a Cutler guy.
He thinks he can fire it in there and just beat all the coverages, fit into the smallest windows, and get like Brett Favre stats. It's just you're not even close to Brett Favre. You have a big arm. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So I like Alshon Jeffrey. He doesn't run fast. That's why he was drafted in the second round. But he's got the strongest hands in the game. Dude, like you can throw it up triple coverage, he'll go up and get it.
He's
That's
awesome.
how great his hands are. Yeah, he's amazing. And I'm really curious to see what they get out of Kevin White
Kevin
this
White.
year. Yeah, I really like White coming out last year. I thought he was pretty good after the catch, and he's explosive. So, but he comes off. Was it torn ACL he had last year?
Yeah, yep. And he's a very
Yeah.
well
So
route runner, so we'll see how that knee holds up on some of these cuts. But he was very explosive at West Virginia. He's got really good hands too. So they were trying to replace B. Marsh when he left, and they lost. Matt Forte, he's gone. They lost Martellus Bennett. So who's going to step up in Chicago? It's going to be like Langford. I like Langford. I think it's time for him to start to shine, but that offensive line isn't that good.
well, now you got Sitton. So you got you got Sitton and Long, and then the rest of them kind of stink.
Yeah.
You got Charles Leno and Bobby Massey are your tackles. It's not really. They got guards. Maybe they can run the ball up the middle.
Load the box, 8 in the box, and just go from middle in and take them out. It's going to be a very down year in Chicago. I feel so bad for Chicago. Their baseball team hasn't won in like 300 years. Their football team just is completely awful. It's going to be another down year for them great Chicago fans. Just get rid of Jay Cutler, and you'll be on the up and up.
Yeah. What do you got Chicago going?
I got Chicago going 5-11.
Okay, so we both got the same thing for them. All right, overrated, underrated guys. Overrated is Jay Cutler.
Yeah, Jay Cutler, hands down.
Yeah. You talked about underrated. You talked about Kyle Long already. I like him too. I like Pernell McPhee, Jarrell Freeman. I'll go with those guys.
Willie Young is underrated pass rusher. You've got him. Jonathan Bullard and Leonard Floyd are the two rookies to watch out for. They're starting to build that. And Eddie Goldman had a solid rookie season, as you said, last year. So they're starting to build that defensive lineup and get after the pass rushers. So it will be the next couple of years. We'll be talking about Chicago again.
Deep sleeper at cornerback, DeAndre Hall of Northern Iowa. Watch out for him. I like him. I thought he had a really good Senior Bowl, so keep an eye on him. Northern Iowa, the same school that produced David Johnson. David Johnson was the guy that I found out about at the Senior Bowl and loved him too. So we'll see if
he can be pumping out products.
Yeah, Kurt Warner too.
That's right. 3 guys, and 2 of them are really good.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to Detroit. Oh, I don't want to talk about this.
Motown.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, though. I really like Ziggy Ansah. I think he's a fucking stud.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They lost a Hall of Famer, though, too, so it's sad to see Megatron walk away.
No more Calvin Johnson. That's a shame. It really is. Going back.
Autobots won.
Yep. So going back to Ansah, man, I mean, this guy really didn't know how to play football. He still really doesn't know how to play football, which is kind of crazy to say considering I had him ranked as the second best defensive end in the league. He's still learning. It's just insane. This guy, the power that he has, unfucking believable.
It's just like JPP. Play 1 year of football.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Same exact thing. Just athletic, long, got a great bull rush, has got speed, and it's just that his athleticism coming into play. And now that he's starting to learn to play football, sky's the limit for this kid. I think he could be one of the best sack holders that we've ever seen in the game when it's all said and done.
Yeah, there's some serious upside because he hasn't even met it yet. Like the ceiling is up here for him, and he's like here, and he's already one of the best in the game. It's unreal how good he is.
They got to lock him up for the rest of his career. It seems like great players seem to walk away early when they play in Detroit. Barry Sanders, Megatron. Let's hope Ziggy's not another one.
Yeah. They got some other solid pieces there on deep. Well, maybe not many, but
Darius Slay's good.
Yeah, I was about to say his name. Yeah, Darius Slay. I had him ranked as a top 10 corner. So I think he was up there in pass breakups. He was one of the top ones in the league. And I like Glover Quinn, too, the safety.
awesome. Underrated safety. He's a ball hawking safety. He can do a lot. Their defensive line, other than Ziggy, though, it's Haloti not as past his prime. He's done. They lost, Sue 2 years ago to Miami. They haven't really replaced him. I mean, you got guys like Tawan Walker and Devin Taylor. It's not impressive. So where are they going to get their help? Their linebackers aren't much better. DeAndre Levy's okay.
Yeah, he comes off injury, right?
Yeah.
He was injured last year? Yeah, he's pretty good. To hear Whitehead, Josh Bynes are like, they're okay. They're not bad. Bynes had a good year last year, but he's never really been anything before last year. Ashawn Robinson, they drafted him from Alabama to potentially be that guy that takes over for Sue. So, but like this isn't like Chicago. Chicago's got some pieces. Detroit, except Ansa and Slay, there's not much there.
No, they haven't. They've missed on Kyle Van Noy. I don't think he's very good. They got him out of BYU. He's supposed to be a pass rush specialist. Really hasn't panned out. It just looks like the same old story for this team. They're just not drafting well, and then players are leaving. I'm excited to see Ashawn Robinson. He's not the talent of Sue by any means. I think he's more of a run stuffer than a pass rusher. So it's interesting to see. And then you jump onto the offensive side. How are you going to replace Megatron? I mean, they signed Marvin Jones, who I don't think is any good. Sheer 3-4 number wide receiver. I love Golden Tate. I think he's a very underrated wide receiver. I think he's a stud.
Yeah, I do like Golden Tate. The way he can go in and out of his breaks, he's very, very quick. Really good after the catch. I like that pair of running backs. We'll see what Abdullah will do. Like, Abdullah had this like amazing preseason last year, and then he didn't quite live up to what was expected, even though he wasn't bad or anything. I really like Theo Riddick. He's really shifty after the catch. So you have like a solid pair there. They're probably the most exciting running back pair to watch, at least for me.
They're electric in the open field because I know Theo played wide out and running back when he was at Notre Dame, and Abdullah is very explosive. He can get it in the open fields, but he's got fumble-rooski problems. He can't hold on to the ball. So if you could get him out in the open field and just teach him how to hold the ball, much like Tiki, you'll be fine. But you got to hold on to the rock, as we've said over and over with these running backs.
Yeah, he's got some jump cutting ability. He's got a little bit of LeSean McCoy in him, but not like full on LeSean McCoy, because nobody can jump cut like him. It's him and Barry Sanders. And that's it. But yeah, so you got those guys, and then you got Matthew Stafford. Like,
I like Stafford.
I'll say that he's gotten better. Like, he's not like terrible anymore. He's actually, his last 2 years he's been pretty good. So he's not like terrible anymore. So that's that. I guess we'll go overrated, underrated real quick.
Well, the line is atrocious. So overrated, Riley Reif is overrated. Underrated guys, man, we kind of touched on those guys.
There's not much, man. Theo Riddick, Darius Slay,
Glover Quinn. That's it.
Yeah.
Another down year in Motown.
Larry Warford was good for like his first 2 years, and he hasn't been as good since. The guard.
He fell off. Laken Tomlinson, their first round pick last year, was atrocious. Maybe they kick him over to the left side. He plays a little better there. They took Taylor Decker at Ohio State, so they're trying to build up that line. They just haven't seemed to be – they've spent at least 4 or 5 first-round picks on tackles and offensive linemen over the years, and just none of them have panned out.
Yeah, it's insane. So what about Eric Ebron? You think he does anything this year?
He's been getting on the overrated list because I had high hopes with this kid coming out of North Carolina. He had all the intangibles. He had great hands. He could run all the routes. He was fast, and he just hasn't translated it onto the field. He's been a huge disappointment. So this is a make-or-break year for Eric Ebron.
Yeah, I'll put him on the overrated list. Him and Warford, I'll put both of them on there.
Because they had Pettigrew. He never panned out. You went Ebron. He was a top 10 pick where you could have took a great corner and you took him, and he's just been
shit. Man, he's terrible.
Crap. So they got to revamp this team and get a new GM in there.
All right. What's your prediction for the Lions?
I see them going 6-10.
All right, 5-11 for them for me. So not too exciting. So any final thoughts?
Final thoughts is I want to see what Sam Bradford does with this Vikings team.
I'm very curious. I will laugh hysterically if he goes out there and kills it.
Takes them to the promised land, and all the Eagle fans be like, "Why did we get rid of him? We should have."
I'm waiting for that. But if they do really, really well, it only helps the Eagles in the draft. So if they get to the NFC Championship game, they get a 3rd-round pick. If they get and somehow win the Super Bowl, they get a 2nd-round pick. So I guess you kind of want to root for Sam Bradford this year. But then again, you kind of want them to do bad, so the 1st-round pick is better. But I don't see how they can be worse than even if Sam Bradford, say he tears his ACL in game 1 of the season, they are still a 9-10 win team.
Yeah, there's no way this team can be bad. Even with Sean Hill behind center, it just can't happen. So I'm excited to see what he does out there. See if he turns into the Sam Bradford. Well, they're linking him and AP back together like they played in college too. So it didn't work out with him and DeMarco, so maybe it's better with him and AP.
There you go. All right, for Kyle Gaffner, I'm Adrian Fedke. One more division to go, and that's tomorrow. We're doing the NFC East. Eagles. Yay! We're out.
Later.
Peace.